Donald Trump set to reveal his economic plan tomorrow in Detroit, which he says will create millions of new jobs. So what can we expect? Here to give us a preview of that plan is Stephen Moore. He's an economic advisor for the Trump campaign and an economist at the Great Heritage Foundation. Stephen, thanks for joining us this morning. If you
Good
would,
morning. Thanks for having me.
Give us a preview of what Donald Trump's going to lay out tomorrow.
Well, this is going to be a hugely important speech for Donald Trump. It's going to lay out the whole kind of economic plan. The centerpiece of that plan is going to be one of the largest tax cuts since Ronald Reagan was in office, with a tax cut really aimed at the middle class, probably saving the average family about $1,500 to $2,000 a year on their federal income taxes. It's going to simplify the code so most Americans will be able to itemize, not have to itemize their deductions and keep all of their receipts. And the other thing is a big tax cut for our businesses, because, you know, we have so many businesses that have been leaving the United States for Mexico and China and Europe, and this will cut our corporate and small business tax rate from one of the highest in the world down to 15%. That's a big deal. I think that'll create, and Donald Trump believes that'll create millions and millions of new jobs.
Well, Stephen, if you would, his economic plan is going to be called Revitalizing the American Economy. A lot of people have been hearing about tax cuts for Republicans for a long time.
That's true.
But explain why a corporate tax rate reduction from 35% to 15% is such a powerful incentive. What does that do to the job climate in America?
Well, let me give you some examples of what we're talking about. If you look over the last 3 or 4 years under Obama, we've seen so many American companies leave the United States. Great companies like, you know, Medtronic and Burger King and Pfizer, one of our great drug companies, wants to leave. Walmart has been talking about leaving. And they say they have to leave because our taxes are so much higher than the countries we compete with. They almost have a fiduciary duty to leave. This will bring those companies back. But the more important point is small businesses are the spinal cord of our economy. I mean, we know that 2/3 of all jobs in this country come from those small businesses. They're just getting not just taxes, by the way, but also regulation. And there's going to be a big regulatory component to this as well, getting the government off these businesses back so they can grow. I mean, just one example, all the regulations in Obamacare on employers, we know it's leading to less workers being hired and less hours being offered to those workers.
Absolutely. Regulation strangling businesses, large and small, rigged for those at the top. If you would, is there explain the symbolism of Detroit? There's obvious themes there, but is he going to speak to what's hurt places like Detroit and how he can revitalize them?
Yeah, there's a reason that Detroit was picked. I mean, Detroit obviously has gone for bankruptcy. In fact, I was just in Detroit recently. I'll be there tomorrow. But, you know, Detroit was one of the symbols of American industrial might as recently as 25 or 30 years ago. Today, it's in complete collapse. And, you know, one of the things that I hope Donald Trump will say tomorrow, and I think he's talked a lot about this, is, you know, what have Democrats done for these big cities, whether it's Detroit or Newark or Philadelphia or Pittsburgh? You know, you see these cities in such decline, Baltimore, another example. And I think what Donald Trump is going to say is, look, you've put your trust in Democrats for 30 years, and they've ruined these cities. There's no jobs here. There's crime on the street. People are shooting not just the people, but the cops. We're going to bring law and order, and we're going to bring jobs back to those cities. And it's important, I think, for Republicans to say, no, we're not the party of the rich. We want to come into those low-income neighborhoods and rebuild them.
Well, and looking at the plan, too, a core theme of it is fairness as well. If you're going to lower that corporate tax rate, you get rid of loopholes and others that have been exploited to make sure that big companies are able to avoid it. Also, the energy, oil, and gas industry is a big focus as well.
That is a huge component of it. You know, we believe that we can, within 5 or 6 years, make the United States of America the energy-dominant country in the world, and producing our oil, our gas. And one other thing I know Donald Trump is going to hit on Monday, all those tens of thousands of coal miners who've been put out of work by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, first day in office, we're going to recreate those jobs.
Absolutely. Yep. Stephen Moore, economist for Donald Trump. You'll be there tomorrow at the speech. We will be watching. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Okay, thank you very much.